Welcome to Big Life Weekly Series, where we empower high achievers to break free from limits, unlock their natural potential, and live a big life. I'm your host, Robert Acosta, and each week we will explore the strategies, mindsets, and tools you need to thrive, not just in your professional career, but in every aspect of your life. Whether you're a leader looking for a better balanced life, an entrepreneur aiming for sustainable success, or someone ready to take the next step toward your best self, this podcast is your space to grow, reflect, and take action. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello, I'm Robert Acosta. I'm here with Justin Jacobson from Justin Jacobson Law in New York in the United States. So welcome, Justin.
Thanks for having me.
Well, yeah, my pleasure. So let's start right away so we can capture as much as possible to showcase your business. So, Justin, can you give us a 90-second overview of what your business does and why you got into it?
Definitely. So, I'm Justin Jacobson. I'm an intellectual property and business attorney in New York City, and I assist individuals and businesses in the entertainment, music, sports, fashion, gaming, and esports space. I help all these, streamers, talent, and the professionals assisting them with copyrights and trademarks, contract review and negotiation, corporation and LLCs, visas, immigration, really anything that's needed to help these, creators, influencers, musicians, professional athletes, with their legal and business matters. And I've always been involved in the entertainment world. I've always passionate about it. So it's really exciting to be able to marry that passion with my profession and be able to kind of help, the creators and the professionals, the agents, the managers, the stylists, and people that kind of support these people.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different kind of type of people working in that industry, right? You just mentioned several.
Yeah, being able to help both the talent themselves as well as, the professionals who work with them and represent them. It gives you unique perspectives on, the whole industry.
Yeah, it's good that you could merge your talent, as you mentioned, your passion with something that you know how to do. So what do you really enjoy most about your work in the legal services that you do?
I think it's great to kind of, work with clients, especially those that are doing really great stuff, and to see their successes and, know that maybe you're a part of it or you did the deal on it, and kind of seeing something you've been talking about for maybe, months or longer. And then you see the final result, right? If they're working on an album, then you finally hear the song you've been, doing an agreement for. It's cool to kind of see that finishing product and kind of how that impacts, the fans and the world and people that listen or engage with it.
And you're a part of it, so that's why it's the way you feel. Great.
Exactly.
So I guess you have, as I say, a different kind of clients in the entertainment and sport industry. So how can you define success in the work you do?
I think just continuing to, just do more and work with great people. And, to me, that's what success is, just the continuation of building it and being able to sustain it over a long period and just kind of grow. So that's kind of the biggest thing, is just to continue to grow and increase my, notoriety and the kind of talent and people that I work with.
When you think or hear the word legal or legal services, we think about problems. We think about quarrels and fights and disagreements, all those kind of things. So I'm curious, what is the biggest problem or challenge you see in your industry, in the legal services, and how are you solving that for yourself, your clients, or any referral partner?
Well, yeah, I think that your point about there's always problems. I would say half of what I deal with is diffusing problems. The manager and the talent having problems, the label and the talent, the brand, and it's just they didn't say they were going to do. The videographer messed up the video and he doesn't want to fix it, and trying to diffuse a lot of that. But I think more in the industry overall, it's kind of, I feel like there's a lack of affordable, competent and efficient counseling. I think that there's different spectrums, people that are fast, people that are expensive, people that, kind of are on the lesser expensive side and kind of do things at a more, bulk rate. And I think that what sets me apart is being able to handle, high level stuff in an efficient manner, being able to kind of keep the deal flow. I feel like there are certain people in the legal industry that don't move as quick, take months or longer to get back to you on an edit and to respond to a simple question, or, things that really shouldn't take that long. And it really just impacts the whole ability to move, right? And the entertainment industry moves so quick that, in my opinion, it's like my job is you bring the deal in, we negotiate a red line, we get it done, and you get paid, right? The quicker it happens and signs, the better it is for everybody. And I don't know if that's necessarily how, most other people think. And I think in the legal services community, there's not really an incentive to get things done as quickly. It might not work towards bottom lines and such. So, I think that's one problem that you see a lot, and potentially, you have clients that are like, oh, it takes weeks or however long for a lawyer to respond to my email or get back to a call. And it's like, that would never happen with me. Like, I'm pretty constant. Like, it would be rare if I'm not responding in, a day or two kind of thing. Like, it doesn't flow with the industries that I'm in. So I just think that that's maybe a problem that is pervasive in a lot of legal industries, but definitely in, these entertainment and talent ones. There are people that are deal makers and deal breakers, and I think how quickly you can move on things, factors into that.
Right. So I guess you have clients that, or you have cases when someone asks you for help, asks your help for because something is happening. So you have to amend something or to fix something because there's a problem. But I guess you have other clients that ask you for help to avoid problems, to avoid future. So what is the mix that you have between those two scenarios?
Right. It's the worst that I have to say I told you so when I already told you so, because it really happens more than it should, right? I've had talent say like, oh, well, I didn't get the agreement signed and now the producer wants more money and da-da-da-da. And it's like, well, remember when I told you to get the agreement signed before you paid him all that money? Well, this is one of those reasons, right? Mm-hmm. And then I think you see people that are more successful because they understand how they need to approach it. They approach this as a business, as a transaction. Like, yeah, we're friends, yeah, we're colleagues, yeah, there's this creative energy, but we also want to do business right so we can all succeed. And I feel like there are people that understand that and approach that. And ultimately, if we look at the people that are most successful, it's because that's how they really approach stuff. Whether you know it or not, this is how you really succeed in these worlds, is by doing the paperwork right, having all the rights you need, making sure that you can do what you need to do when you need to do it. And that sometimes, you have a talent come like, oh, I saw this management agreement, they're not doing anything, what do I do? It's like, well, you probably should have came to me before you signed this, because like this really isn't that good. And like, we can try to do some maneuvering, but like you don't really have that many options, and they're probably way more costly than if you had engaged someone to begin with to negotiate it. So it's, it's kind of this balance, and you hope that people are understanding by sadly seeing other people have issues. It's like, oh wow, if that was an issue, I better make sure I do this right. And that's sometimes a sad issue, and it's like, oh, someone's mistakes helps you make sure you don't make their mistake. But sometimes it's the only way to learn, right? That like, that's what I've learned from some pretty good people in this industry. It's like, sometimes you can tell the talent or whoever so much, but sometimes you have to do what they think, and then they have to fail, and they have to be like, you were right, Justin. Like, I probably shouldn't have done this, and like, I wish I would have listened to you. And it's like, okay, great. Well, maybe next time you will, and we'll avoid this, right? And it's sometimes like, they need to burn their head on the stove once to know not to touch the stove.
Who would you say is your ideal client, and what significant outcomes can they expect when working with you?
Well, I think that you really want someone, and what I'm looking for is people that are, trying to do stuff at a high level, that are kind of at that and need to make sure that they have people that are, attending to their needs and doing it at, a fee that's, reasonable, and someone that they know has their best interest and wants them to succeed. Because the better they succeed, the more they do, the more deals they close, the more money they help you. Like, it's this good relationship where like your job is to help them succeed and to make sure they're protected, and when they have problems, to hopefully help get out of them, or to think about what could be issues and how to help avoid them. And if you do good for people, hopefully you hope that they want to keep keeping you around because you're doing good for them. And I think that's kind of the way I look at it. And there's been clients I've had for, nearly my whole career, over a decade. And I've just been doing their work and taking care of what they need and, supporting them, and I'm their guy. So it's just kind of like that's the ideal situation.
So that way you build a long-term relation. And I think you have some clients that it's a long-term relation, right?
Yeah, because I think that especially in these, entertainment, personal world, you have to kind of have some of that because it's not just like, oh, I got injured in a car accident, go get me money, right? Like that's going to be a kind of very transactional thing, right? Like as soon as the matter is done, that's the end of it. Like God forbid you don't get injured again and have to call them, right? Like you get a DWI, it's just that's it. You need a will, a divorce, do a real estate closing. It's like, they're hired, they do the closing, it's done, and like, maybe you get a Christmas card every year, right? So it's just kind of like that's not the way my kind of industry is and my kind of clients. It's, you're building with these people, they're doing stuff years, months, some deals are taking months to close or to actually like, a song to get released, right? You're doing contract a couple of months before it actually happens, and then it gets released 6 months later, and it's like there's now stuff that has to go into when a song gets released versus when it's being prepared. So it's a lot of stuff going on.
What makes you unique in the way you help them achieve those outcomes?
I think being able to kind of have this full understanding of the entertainment world, from the music to TV to sports, esports, fashion, art, all these lifestyle and cultural areas, so that when you're working in this, because there's no longer I'm just a musician, right? So I'm a musician, I like art, I also have a fashion line, and by the way, I skateboard, right? Or like I'm a NBA player, but I also like to rap and play games, and my style is cool too. And it's like these are what it is now, right? They're more hybrid brands and just I'm an NBA player, I'm good at basketball, like me, right? It's so much more. So being able to have an understanding of how to, legally and monetize these worlds, how to do it properly, how to kind of build this brand from the intellectual property standpoint to the building it from the corporate structuring to then actually going into the marketplace, licensing whatever is needed there, being able to understand all these legal areas is really beneficial, right? Because you're a musician, you're a band, yeah, you would have merchandise, but now you're a musician, you're a band, and you're gonna have a branded Fender guitar, and you're gonna do a sponsorship activation, and there's gonna be a whole big elaborate thing built into it, right? That has to do with licensing of your IP. So there's just so many different areas that overlap. So being able to work in those efficiently and at a high level, I think kind of sets me apart and gives me a unique perspective on it.
So well, I know this industry, or I think there's many industries, but we can say the entertainment and sports industry, as you mentioned, is moving very fast. The whole world is moving fast, while this industry is moving very, very fast. So in this last decade that you mentioned, what would you say is the strangest or funniest incident that you have experienced while working with this legal services business?
I mean, I think it's just really interesting to kind of see the cycle of people's careers. People that are doing stuff at a really high level, they're like the talk of the town, this, that, and the third. And then, if they don't strike and do things properly, when they have that buzz, that energy, that, notoriety, then they just don't exist, right? And they just cycle out, and it's all about the next one. And it's really interesting to see people, how that happens, especially as someone who's been, in the entertainment industry for, over 20 years and kind of as an attorney for, over 12, to kind of see this cycle of like a decade plus of, people that were like making moves, like they were the talk of the town, doing all this stuff. And it's like, people don't even know who they are, and it's like they never even existed. So it's just really interesting to kind of see that. And obviously the whole evolution to the digital world, right? Where like, YouTube and TikTok, Instagram reels, and, content creator and influencer, like, and these kids, I was representing all these big professional gamers and streamers, and they're making like 6-7 figures a year playing Call of Duty and Fortnite. And like, there was an NBA 2K league where they're getting flown across the country to like sit courtside and work for these professional NBA organizations. It's like, wow, I didn't even know this could exist. And like, wow, I really messed up. And why am I not getting paid $1 million to play Fortnite? So it's just like, this is just such a crazy transformation to kind of see where it's gone, and that's kind of what we're in right now.
This is what you see as the coming trends within your business.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the next, 5, 10 years, really seeing, AI and copyright, AI and name, image, and likeness, and Gen AI. So that's really been something that, I've personally been researching and speaking on and writing about, and really trying to fully understand how this plays in, right? I've already started to, edit agreements to include certain language regarding Gen AI use, and make sure you have proper licensing and, indemnifications to protect my clients. If, you're hiring someone to make an album cover or take photos, if they're going to use Gen AI, like, there may be licensing problems there. You have to make sure that they can license this use for commercial use, that they even have the right to do that. And being in this world of, name, image, and likeness, and deep fakes, and kind of the right of publicity, there's just so much going on. So I think trying to stay at the cutting edge of that, and being one of those, scholars that could really understand it from the beginning, because I get what's happening here. I see how Gen AI is going to really impact the entertainment and creative spaces, and we're only scratching the surface, right? We're not even anywhere near what it's going to be. Like, when computers are better and the AI bots are even better, it's just going to be wild what happens. So then you have all the legalities of it, right? All of these bots are, potentially training themselves, the programs, on all this existing material. And there's all of these things that are going on with, lawsuits and, different legislation to try to address all this stuff. So it's really kind of what's happening, what is going on in my industry at the highest level. And realistically, it's going to impact every industry for like the next 5 to 10 years. But, the entertainment industry, and that was, we know that like big writers' strike, Screen Actors Guild that happened recently, like that was one of the core things of how many jobs can AI replace, and how it's going to be able to do even more and more. So it's, really something that, I personally have focused on. And, I think those that see where the future is are probably jumping on that too.
Yeah, the only caveat is that you cannot make your own laws, but about AI, but you can propose it. So do you think we are does it say AI is going faster than the law is building the guardrails in order to be legally applying it?
Definitely. I mean, that always happens, right? I feel like digital technology, the internet, Napster, and all the file sharing stuff, and like it just moves, BitTorrent, all these things just move way too quickly, and governments move way too slow. But there is pending legislation at state level, federal level. There's some stuff that have passed in certain states. So there's really a big, wide address on it. You have international stuff. The EU and the UK are passing some really broad stuff. So people are really focused on it. But as we know, sometimes government doesn't move as quick as, Silicon Valley and techs that are working 24/7 on this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So and I guess that there are even more players in this area of legal services in this area of AI. So what advice would you give to someone just starting with this legal service industry? If you have the opportunity to give you an advice, someone that is new in the industry, what would you say to him or to her?
I mean, network and try to, communicate and find people that are, doing what you're trying to do or what you want to do, and try to find your way in, try to learn how to do that. I think putting yourself out there, whether it's, digitally or in person, whether it's going to networking events, going to conferences, going to panels, like, there are people that want to help and want to engage. So I think it's one of those biggest things where people are sometimes shy or timid or think things are just going to come to them. And it's like, no, these industries are very hotly contested. People that want them are really willing, for the most part, to go above and beyond. And like, if that's what you want, like, you need to go get it. And I think that's something that maybe isn't that, known, but realistically trying to find trying to find any information, any opportunities, whether it's internships, whether it's, personal assistant, anything that puts you in the door in the direction you want to go, that's what you need. And once you kind of get in and develop, your information, your knowledge, your kind of network, your connections, and your reputation, then you're able to kind of move and get to maybe where you're ultimately trying to go, right? You just need to kind of break through and begin on that path. And that kind of happens however it can be. And I think that's a lot of where people get discouraged, is that maybe they're like, oh, I just want to do this and this. And if I don't get it, well, then whatever. It's like, well, maybe that's, you can get to that, but maybe you need to do this and this so that you're more intriguing, or they're like, oh, wow, look at this person. How can we not hire them? Right. And this is what sets you apart in these kind of industries, is showing that you want this and that you can do this and are taking the opportunities. And when I look at a resume or anyone, it's like I can tell who's trying to build an entertainment resume, who's trying to be in this, who's trying to, whether they're working at their local school newspaper doing, album reviews, or the radio station, or managing events, or a DJ. Like, there's just so many ways to be involved in this stuff. Maybe it's coaching youth and helping the league do organizational stuff, just like understanding the way these things work, dealing with suppliers. There's just so many avenues that can be beneficial, and people just, maybe don't look at it, don't think it's possible, and, I think they maybe get discouraged.
Yeah, and as you say, you have to be willing to do things that you don't like to do in order to get what you want to do. So it's not everything. It's not flowers and a good beat. So I guess you personally have had failures and challenges. So what would you say is your biggest failure or challenge that you have faced at this point in your life, but at the same time has maybe shaped the way you do business?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always tough being, a smaller firm going against, larger ones with more established clientele and A-list clients, and, people that, oh, I'm working with, these superstar people, and it's like, okay, great. And I think that, sometimes losing clients to those people when maybe I don't necessarily think that, I was not capable of doing the job, or that I could do it to, the level that they went. So I think that kind of really focuses me and kind of causes me to evolve and kind of look for things to fill in gaps that maybe they're not doing. I got really involved in kind of the esports and professional gaming space really early on, trying to identify that as an area that wasn't that well served, especially on a legal standpoint. There was only really a few people doing it, and they all had a very similar background. So I kind of came in with a different background, a different network, a different, flow or jib, as they say, and kind of, stuck my foot in there, and just little by little grew my, role, my notoriety, my, book of business. And that's now something that's, a big part of what I'm doing. So I just think that it causes you to evolve and find those areas that, okay, well, maybe, being a sports agent is cool, but like, they don't do trademarks and copyrights. They don't know how, then that's not really what their focus is. So that's where I work with a lot of different agents on behalf of their players. Like, maybe I'm not doing their player contract or their sponsorship deals all the time, but I can do trademarks and copyrights and visas and LLCs and help them with the things that's maybe not like the super, sexy agent work. Like, everyone wants to get the $20 million deal for their player signed by the team. But, that's super competitive, and that's what everyone wants. So finding a way to, like, work in that world by bringing something to the table that they're not going to really focus on, it's not really going to be lucrative for them to spend their time learning trademark law and learning intellectual property. And maybe, I worked with a player that was actually, was on Toronto. So I worked on trademarking his work in Canada and the U.S. So, understanding international trademark law, being able to protect an athlete that, was on the Blue Jays, and then he went to another team here in the U.S., and being able to make sure that his brands and his logos and everything he was building was protected in, both markets that he was, servicing and making money in.
You have a lot of things on your plate and a lot of things happening simultaneously, but what is the one thing that has been most instrumental in your success?
I think just really understanding that this is what I'm kind of supposed to do, and like, it's going to be hard to meet challenges, but like, when I'm doing it and when it's revving on all cylinders, it's like, that's what it is. I just kind of like say, like, that scene, the last scene in The Matrix, when like Keanu just like sees the Matrix, gets it, and just stops the bullets, and like, now he controls the Matrix. Like,
Mhm.
That's kind of sometimes how I feel, and I feel like that's kind of how I know that this is like what I'm kind of supposed to be doing, and like where I'm supposed to be.
Right. So definitely you have to have the heart to do this, not only the knowledge of the talent, but you really want it. Otherwise, you can bail in the first challenge, in the first crash into the wall, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stories, right? It's like, what are your biggest failures? It's like, what happened last month? It's just like, that's part of these industries, It's like you win, you lose, but you keep going because as long as you get way more wins than you get losses, like, you're still winning. And, that's always my philosophy. Always try to get the dubs, but you can't win them all, right? Like, no one wins everything. There wouldn't be any fun if you won everything,
Of course.
other
Yeah.
than in video games, right?
Yeah, you have to lose something, and when you lose, you learn. So
Exactly.
you're not a failure until you stop playing. So if
Exactly.
you keep playing, it's just a setback, and then you learn, and you maybe it makes you stronger for the next speed, right?
Yep. It's like
So
I'm not gonna get burned again by that mistake.
maybe not, but that,
Well,
but
hopefully, maybe it takes me 2 or 3 times to not get burned, but eventually I'll stop.
yeah. So talking about the future, what is the next growth area for you personally and for your business?
I think really just continuing to evolve and stay on the cutting edge of what's going on in the entertainment world, being able to service all of these areas, and kind of continue to be a knowledgeable person in this. I've started to continue to put out more content. I've written a book, so I'm really kind of working on the second edition of that, and also teach some classes as an adjunct professor. So it's really nice to be able to continue to engage with the youth, work at different colleges, learn kind of how they see things and what they're looking at. And, when you're 18, 19, 20, it's totally different than when I'm looking at it, 20 years, older than them, and dealing with people that are maybe 20 years older than me, and, maybe 10. So it's like all over the place, but just being able to kind of see the way they see things as, maybe just an outsider who doesn't really know what's going on. Like, what do you think about that? Like, what do you think is going on here? And then to kind of hear, their thoughts on it. And, it's really exciting.
And you say for your business, all this AI evolution, it's some area of growth for your business that you would say.
Yeah, I mean, AI and copyright and entertainment is just really growing. There's starting to think about how you can use it to your advantage, right? From an entertainer, like if you're doing a commercial with a brand, you can do one commercial and then you can give them the rights to make three, and they can just AI the background and the product SKU, and now they paid for one commercial. Maybe they'll pay a bit more and they get three out of it, and you only have to do one commercial, right? So now you can do more deals and be more efficient with your time. So I think being able to advocate and explain to the clients I'm working with and the businesses, like, hey, like this could be beneficial if you understand how to structure things and how to protect yourself and what this technology can really do for you. So I think that's going to be a really big future area. I was really big on like Web3 and blockchain and NFTs and all that stuff when that was a whole big thing. And
Mhm.
I obviously, being in the gaming and esports world, see the way this digital currency, these digital collectibles, and these things have a world of its own. And I think that that's gonna also be parallel to like the metaverse, and how people are like companies are being involved in that, and how you're legally going to be in that, like these live concerts and these Fortnite and Roblox creators. So all this is IP, all this is digital technology, and how you license different stuff. So it's really going to be something that I'm just going to continuously be involved in, and hopefully continues to grow as it grows.
Yeah, it sounds very interesting. If you could have lunch with one person, living or dead, who would it be and why?
I mean, so I wrote down exactly who came to my head. And,
Okay.
Jim Morrison of The Doors is like, a legend, a creative, like just someone that I just think that I would just love to just sit there and just let him talk and riff and just watch him and just enjoy it. But I'm more of a serious thing. I feel someone like, Lear Cohen or Jimmy Iovine, just one of these really industry moguls, and just kind of sit there and hear war stories and kind of understand how they approach different things and why they do it. So, there's the fun and then maybe the not as fun, but I think ultimately, learning from, true visionaries, I think would be, a blessing.
So there's a depth within them that nobody sees, or maybe few people see. So you have them in front of them. You can have that opportunity to go inside.
Exactly. Just let them be and just see how they got to where they are and why they're going to be timeless at this point.
Perfect. So what is the best way for people to contact you if they'd like to work with you or discuss referral partnerships?
So follow me on all social media, Justin J ESQ, and check my website out, jmjesq.com. I have all my contact info there, my email, and there's a lot of different useful articles on all these different topics. So please, reach out. I'm always available. LinkedIn's also a good one as well. Right. So everything is linked there on my website.
Perfect. Okay, so that was terrific. I enjoyed this conversation with you. So thank you so much for being with me on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me on Big Life Weekly series. I hope today's episode gave you the insight, inspiration, and tools you need to move closer to the life you're meant to live. Remember, true success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about how you feel while you achieving it. If you found value in our conversation, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with others who are ready to embrace their big life. Until next time, stay focused, keep growing, enjoy life, and break free.